I hope everybody can see my screen. Okay, hi everybody again. Welcome to this webinar about battery replacement under the EU battery regulation. My name is Pablo Antiñanco and I will be hosting the webinar. At your right, you should see a Q&A panel. You can submit all your questions there. At the end of the session, I will answer as many questions as I can today, and the rest of them I will answer by email. After the webinar, you will be receiving the slides, a link to watch a recording of the webinar, and as a gift for all of you, a free self-assessment tool to help you decide if the requirements for removability and replaceability of batteries apply fully to your product, or if you can use any of the derogations that the regulation considers. About the recording, the link that you will receive is personal, but if you have a colleague who wants to watch the webinar, they will be able to register at any time after we finish, and they will have access their own personal links to the recordings. I will be sharing everything after we finish. Now, let's get started with the presentation. We can start, and also to give some context, we can ask a simple question. Does your product incorporate batteries? Because batteries that are placed on the European Union market are in the scope of the battery regulation. That is Regulation 2023/1542 of the European Union. This regulation does not only define provisions for batteries, but also for products that incorporate them. This webinar specifically will focus on the removability and replaceability requirements for products incorporating portable batteries, covered by Article 11 of the regulation. Okay, let me introduce myself. My name is Pablo Antiñanco. I've been working for 20 years now in testing, manufacturing, quality, and regulatory compliance of electronic products. I have worked in several projects in South America, Japan, China, United States, and Europe. In 2025, I started my company, Rosernot, to provide patent compliance solutions for electrical and electronic products in the European Union and United States markets. I usually collaborate with the main laboratories and certification bodies worldwide, UL, Intertech, A+, SGS, and more. Now, what can we do for you at Rosernot? We work with a wide range of electrical and electronic products, such as consumer electronics, measurement systems, IoT devices, electric vehicle chargers, solar inverters, and more. We support companies on identifying the directives and regulations that apply to their product, carrying out the conformity assessment, reviewing technical files, and writing the declaration of conformity. This includes, of course, support during testing and redesigns. We are here to help you. Just write us at contact@rosernot.com. This is the agenda for today. We will be talking about the battery regulation and Article 11, and about some important compliance dates. We will mention a misconception that I have seen in many posts and articles about the battery regulation and smartphones. Then we will go into more detail into the requirements for removability and replaceability of batteries. We will talk about the derogations that the regulation allows, and we will wrap up with some of the questions of the chat and the ones that you have sent when you registered to this webinar. So the topic we're going to be discussing today, we said it's the battery regulation, but more specifically Article 11, that defines provisions for removability and replaceability of portable batteries. EU rules on batteries aim to make batteries sustainable throughout their entire life cycle, from the sourcing of material to their collection, use, recycling, and repurposing. With that goal in mind, on August 2023, the new battery regulation entered into force. But Article 11 of the regulation is not about the battery itself, but the product that contains them. On the screen, you can see Part 1 of Article 11 that says, Any natural or legal person that places on the market products incorporating portable batteries shall ensure that those batteries are readily removable and replaceable by the end user at any time during the lifetime of the product. That obligation shall only apply to entire batteries and not to individual cells or other parts included in such batteries. So this means that the end user of the product, who might be a person without any specific knowledge on electronics or how to replace a battery, must be able to remove and replace the battery at any time during the lifetime of the product. Of course, that this impacts the design of products that incorporate batteries and brings obligations for the economic operators, whether they are manufacturers, importers, or authorized representatives. There are other obligations to fulfill in Article 11. First, products must have instructions and safety information on the use, removal, and replacement of batteries. Batteries must be available as spare parts for a minimum of 5 years after placing the last unit of the equipment model on the market. And there must be no software impediment to use a compatible battery from another manufacturer. We will see all these requirements in detail in a moment. Now, to understand the scope of Article 11, we need to use some terms that are defined in the regulation. Article 11 mentions products that incorporate portable batteries. A portable battery is a battery that is sealed, weighs 5 kilograms or less, is not designed specifically for industrial use, and is neither an electric vehicle battery, an LMT battery, that is light means of transport battery, nor an SLI battery. Those are the batteries for the ignition of the car. Having said that, I would like to mention that these removability and replaceability requirements are also applicable to LMT batteries. But because of the wide range of applications of portable batteries, I will be focusing on them in this presentation, but the same considerations apply to LMT batteries. Now, going back to portable batteries. What are some portable batteries of general use? Well, batteries with any of these formats: 4.5 volts, bottom cells, D, C, AA, AAA, 9 volts. There's a comment, I have a question from Fiona about bottom cell batteries. Well, products that incorporate bottom cell batteries must comply with Article 11. Now, with all these definitions in mind, you might be picturing a wide variety of products. All these products that incorporate portable batteries must be designed in a way that these batteries can be readily removable and replaceable by the end user. Now, who is the end user? Well, the end user is considered to be an adult, a person that is an adult without any specific experience or related qualifications related to removing or replacing batteries. Now, there are these very interesting terms that are removability and replaceability. Removability means that the battery can be safely taken out of the device with or without tools. Then we will see what specific tools we can use without damaging the battery or the device. And replaceability means that the battery can be removed and replaced with another compatible battery without damage and without affecting the device functioning, performing, or safety. Okay, let's talk about important dates. This regulation is not new. It entered into force on August 2023, so it's already applicable. But Article 11, the article that we have been discussing, is going to be applicable from the 18th February 2027 on. That means that products placed on the EU market on that date or after that date must comply with Article 11. Products that are already on the market before this date are not affected. So if you have a product that is already on the market, that is not affected. It's only products that are going to be placed on that date or after that date. But you can see that we're getting closer. It's now less than 8 months ago. Sorry, less than 8 months away. So if you haven't started working on complying with these requirements, now it's a good moment. If you need further guidance on these requirements, the European Commission published guidelines on January 2025. And of course, you can count on me and Rostronaut to support you through the whole compliance process. Speaking of key dates, you might have seen lately posts in LinkedIn and articles saying that on February 2027, smartphones must have replaceable batteries. Well, let me tell you something. This is not correct. Why not? Because this is currently mandatory. We don't need to wait until 2027. Let me explain you. There is a regulation, that is Regulation 2023-1670 on eco-design of smartphones, that defines removability and replaceability requirements for smartphones. This regulation has been applicable since June 2025. So, the smartphones are in the scope of both regulations, eco-design and the battery regulation, but always the most stringent requirement applies. This means that the removability and replaceability requirements for smartphones is already an obligation as today. It's been mandatory since June 2025. That's why I'm saying that it's not correct to say that it's going to be applicable from 2027 on. It's already applicable as today. Now, let's get details. Let's provide more details to try to understand what are the specific requirements of Article 11. And we can think of Article 11 of as affecting different layers of the product. In terms of hardware, batteries must be able to be removed from the device without using heat, solvents, or proprietary tools to disassemble the product. It is allowed to use commercially available tools, for example, a screwdriver, and specialized tools only if they are provided free of charge with the product. About product documentation, clear battery replacement instructions must be provided, plus information on safe battery handling and proper disposal of waste batteries. This part is not new because it was already required by the Waste of Electrical and Electronic Equipment Directive. Regarding software, it shall not be used to impede the replacement of a portable batteries or of their key components with another compatible battery or components. For example, the practice of parts pairing, where the software logs the battery to a specific unit, is prohibited. Finally, spare parts. Batteries must be available as a spare part for a minimum of 5 years after placing the last unit of the equipment model on the market. This means now that manufacturers must include batteries in their stock of spare parts and must have the right processes to deliver that to end users and independent professionals. Okay, so far we have discussed the obligations, and now we will be looking into cases where part of them can be derogated. We can see this, or we can think about this in terms of 3 possible compliance paths. First one is the general rule. We already know this one. Products that incorporate portable batteries must be designed in such a way that end users can remove and replace the batteries with all the conditions that we have mentioned before. And the second path is a partial derogation. In case this second path, this partial derogation, is applicable, then it is sufficient that for a specific product, batteries are removed and replaced by an independent professional instead of the end user. In practical terms, it means that there's a wider range of tools that can be used to remove the battery, and a different level of knowledge can be expected from the professional. The regulation defines specific, very specific cases where this partial derogation can be applied. Appliances specifically designed to operate in an environment that is regularly subject to splashing water, water streams, or water immersion, and that are intended to be washable or rinsable. For some medical devices and in vitro diagnostic medical devices. But you have to understand that this partial derogation does not automatically apply to every product in these categories. There are criteria to evaluate each case, and they require documented technical justification in the product file. In all cases, it must be demonstrated that the removal and replacement of the battery by end users would cause a safety risk. And if you believe that your product might fit in any of these categories, let me know and we can evaluate the case together. Now, the third path is a full derogation. Portable batteries need not be removable and replaced by end users. These are products where continuity of power supplies is necessary and a permanent connection between the product and their respective portable batteries required to ensure safety of the user and the appliance. Or in the case of products that collect and supply data as their main function for data integrity reasons. Now, what's the difference between the partial and the full derogation? The partial derogation shifts the removability and replaceability obligation from the end user to an independent professional, if there are some specific conditions that are present. While the full derogation simply exempts the product from the requirement that the end user must be able to remove and replace the battery. Let's see a few examples to help clarify it. One thing to mention is that these three possible compliance paths have to do with removability and replaceability by the end user. But there are other obligations that no matter what path we choose must be complied with. That is the ones that we have been discussing. No software impediment, to use compatible batteries, clear product documentation, spare parts availability. As I mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, you will be receiving a free self-assessment tool that will help you decide which one of the compliant paths apply to your specific product. We are also working on a full version of the tool that includes everything in the free version, plus a pre-assessment information checklist, a detailed diagram with specific legal article references, a compliance checklist you can use for your technical file, a list of commercially available tools, and more. As soon as we launch it, you will receive a message with all the information to purchase it in case you are interested. Now, let's see the free version that you will be receiving and a few examples. Here, my screen. Okay, this is the tool that you will be receiving. As we mentioned, is a gift for all of you. It starts with some with explanation of what is this tool, who is it for, how to use it, what is Article 11 of the battery regulation. And after that, you will have a simplified decision diagram to help you decide what compliance path of the ones that we have just discussed you can follow for your product. So I want to show you here 2 examples so you will understand how to use the tool, but also you will have a better understanding of this possible compliance path. Okay, let's go for the first example. The first example is an implantable cardiac pacemaker. So let's say that we are working with a manufacturer of implantable cardiac pacemakers, and this manufacturer is selling their product in the United States, Italy, Poland, and India. Their plan is to continue placing units on the European Union market throughout 2027. Well, for those who do not know, maybe a cardiac pacemaker is an active implantable medical device. It's regulated under regulation 2017-745. It is surgically implanted. You need surgery to get that implanted in your body. Okay? And this has a lithium battery with a typical service life of up to 10 years. So at some point, this battery will need to be replaced. Now, when the battery reaches the end of its service life, replacement requires a surgical procedure performed, of course, by a qualified medical professional. End user removal is not possible without putting the person's life in danger. So a permanent connection between the battery and the device is required to ensure the safety of the user. Pay attention to this sentence because this is the key to see what compliance path we can follow. Okay, so let's start using the tool. The tool has what it does is ask questions, and depending on your answer, you can follow one path or the other. So the first question is, does your product incorporate portable batteries and is placed on the European Union markets on or after the 18th February 2027? Well, the answer can be no or yes. In this case, yes, because the pacemaker is currently placed on EU country members, that is Spain, Italy, and Poland, and the manufacturer will keep selling this during 2027. Okay, so the answer is yes. We go to the next question. Number 2 says, does the product require a permanent connection to the portable battery to ensure the safety of the user and the device? And the answer is yes. Permanent connection of the portable battery is required. Replacement of the battery requires surgery. So the full derogation by Article 11, Part 3 applies. The end user is not required to be able to remove or replace the battery. Battery replacement may still be carried out by a qualified medical professional through a surgical procedure. And remember, there are other obligations in Article 11 that must be complied with. Okay? So for this product, the conclusion is that the pacemaker qualifies for a derogation for the full derogation under Article 11, Part 3. Now let's go and see a second example. Okay, all this that I am showing. Remember that we are going to deliver this to you as a gift, so you will be able to read the detail. Now let's go for a second example. In this case, is a TV remote control that has incorporates a lithium battery, but this battery can be charged by a USB connector, but also with solar energy because it has a small solar cell. So we have a manufacturer that produces a TV remote control powered by this lithium battery. As I said before, it can be charged with a photovoltaic cell or through an USB-C port. The product will be placed on the European Union market in August 2027. Now we have additional information about the IP rating, that is IP20. IP20 indicates protection against solid objects larger than 12.5 millimeters, but there's no protection against water ingress. This is important because this information will let us know if we can apply one of the derogations or not. Okay, let's start with the assessment. First question, does the product incorporate portable batteries and is placed on the European Union market after or on the 18th of February 2027? Yes, this is information we have. Let's go with question number 2. Does the product require a permanent connection to the portable battery to ensure safety of the user and device? No, because actually continuity of power is not related to a safety hazard. You could remove the battery of the remote control and there won't be any safety risk for the user or device. Now, does the product collect and supply data as its main function? And does it require a permanent connection to the portable battery to ensure this data integrity? No, because data collection and supply is not the main function of the product. I mean, maybe there is some data is stored in this remote control, but that is not the main function. So data integrity is not affected by disconnection of the battery. Let's go to question number 4. Is the product specifically designed to operate primarily in a wet environment, and does the battery replaceability and removability by end users compromise the safety of the user on the appliance? Well, we just saw the IP degree, so no, because IP20 means there's no specific water ingress protection in this product. I mean, the product can get wet because you can spill coffee on the remote, but it's not designed to work in a wet environment, and that's why it has this IP20 classification. So let's go to the next one. Is the product a professional medical imaging or radiotherapy device or in vitro diagnostic medical device? And does the battery replaceability and removability by end users compromise the safety? Well, no, it's a remote control. It's intended for home use, and it has no medical or diagnostic functions. So we get to the conclusion that for this specific product, the general rule in Article 11.1 applies. So batteries must be removable and replaceable by the end user using commercially available tools. Proprietary tools, thermal energy, and solvents are not permitted. Specialized tools are allowed only if provided free of charge with the product. And remember that we have to see Article 11 for other obligations. Okay, let's go back to the presentation so we can start answering the questions. Okay, now it's time for your questions. Remember that the questions that I won't be able to answer today here, I will answer by email. Also on the screen, you will see 3 polls that we have prepared for you. Please answer them so we can understand your current needs in terms of complying with this regulation. Okay, let's start with the questions. First one is from Ezequiel. Hi, Eze. He's asking what products are exempted. What about products with multiple functions and backup batteries? Okay, the short answer here is products that fit the conditions for the derogations that we discussed before are the ones that are going to be not completely exempted, but there are some conditions that we just thought that where these obligations can be derogated. So that's the short answer. The product has to fit these specific conditions. And let me give you an example of a full derogation where, for data integrity reasons, a permanent connection between the portable battery and the product is necessary. Examples of this case are the point of sale devices, the ones you use for digital payments. The thing is that there are some data protection standards for these devices that require a permanent connection to the battery to protect the integrity of data associated with payments. Having said that, there are other products that are currently being considered by the European Commission for a derogation. One of them is toys that incorporate rechargeable batteries. Because of safety concerns, it shouldn't be too easy to remove and replace the battery, because what if a kid opens the product and swallows the battery? So this is being considered by the European Commission for a derogation. Also, there are some wearable devices, products in the scope of the ATEX directive, and other products. This is currently under discussion. We will have to wait for the official publication of these new derogations. Second question is from Fiona. What is replacing a battery could expose the user to pathogens or bacterial or viral contaminants? Well, this question takes me to an assessment I finished a few days ago for a client. The product was a rechargeable pleasure toy, and it's intended to be used in contact with body fluids. The manufacturer was concerned that if they modified the product to add a battery opening compartment, this might create gaps that, even after cleaning, could provide an environment for microorganisms to build up. Long story short, in this assessment, we could determine that a derogation was appropriate and it was sufficient that the battery was replaced by independent professionals instead of the end user. Now let's go for the last questions for this session. I will answer the rest of them by email. The last question is from Magda. She's asking about wireless headphones. Okay, Magda, this is a very interesting bug to evaluate. Well, there are different wireless headphones configurations of products. The one I have to tell you, this is a very complex product. I will send you some additional information by email. But the headphones I have in mind are the ones that have a casing that has a rechargeable battery that you can connect through your USB-C to the outlet, and you can charge this case. And inside the case, you put these earpieces or earbuds that then you can remove and plug in your ears. This is the model I'm having in mind right now. Of course, these earbuds, they also contain batteries. So you have batteries in the earbuds and you have batteries in the case. Okay. I have to say that there is a report from the European Commission about this case because it's manufacturers of this product were raising concerns to the European Commission about the applicability of these obligations. So the case, as I said, is quite complex, but I will give you a first answer. Okay. So about the earbuds, under specific conditions, we can think or we can consider them as they can be considered for the partial derogation. Okay, so under specific conditions, they can be considered that it is sufficient that an independent professional removes and replaces the batteries for the earbuds. Okay, so the end user wouldn't be required to do that operation of removing the disassembling the earbud, removing the battery, putting the new one. Okay, in this case, it would be sufficient that an independent professional would do it. Now, what about, it's not a rule for every earpiece, but there are some conditions where this can be considered. Now, what about the casing? Well, this is very interesting because the casing can be considered a battery itself. Because the casing, basically, it has the battery, might have a BMS, some communication with the earbuds, but you can also think of it as a battery. So if you would like to replace the battery, you would replace the whole casing. So it's not, there would be no need to disassemble the case to replace the battery. As I mentioned, the case would be entirely replaced instead. That would be how the obligation of Article 11 would apply. But as I said, it's a very interesting case. We can see the specific product you have in mind, and we can discuss further. Okay, so this is the time we have for the webinar today. I appreciate all your comments and questions. I appreciate signing and participating. As I said, I will be answering the rest of the questions by email. Thank you very much for joining, and to see you next time.